This is John Paul Rai coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. My roots in this channel in Star Wars, and I got some news today I had to talk about, where Rian Johnson admits that in The Last Jedi, when he was making the film, he didn't really care so much about, well, let's get into that. Here we go. Here we see it. Star Wars Last Jedi director Rian Johnson admits he didn't care about Star Wars canon and history. And I'll say especially history is the bad part. Canon, you could kind of, maybe use this, maybe use that. You could kind of change that a little bit. But the history of the way the franchise is, where the story was going, is something you really shouldn't ignore. Star Wars Last Jedi director Rian Johnson admitted he really didn't care about Star Wars canon in a recent interview discussing Johnson's Knives Out film. Johnson was asked by Hollywood Reporter's Natalie Heltzel, whenever you are writing, let's say you are creating your own universe, you said you don't think about actors. You are starting something from scratch. How is that approach versus something where you have pre-existing universe? If you are writing characters for Star Wars, you have this universe. You have characters that everybody knows. And then, now you are doing something from scratch. Do you find your approach is different for that? What a difficult question for a moron. Let's see what he says. Johnson would respond, no, not at all, because I really didn't think in terms of universes or in terms of creating worlds or whatever. That's not that interesting to me. So world building, creating things, not so interesting. He doesn't really say what is interesting to him, except the one time he said where it's interesting if half the audience likes it and half the audience hates it. He continued, the only thing that is interesting to me is story. Okay, so story. But, that doesn't mean anything, because the story was the worst part of The Last Jedi. And it was bad. It went nowhere. It was a, big car chase with no development for any characters. So, obviously, story can't be that important to him. And the story, specific to, like whether you're writing a Star Wars film that's part of a 3-movie trilogy or a quote-unquote original thing like Knives Out, you are still telling a story that is new to the thing that you are doing, that it has to work within the context of that movie. Now, the big problem I have about Star Wars and these people, even the director for Rogue One, when he said, well, I gotta bring something new to the table, my thing is don't. Don't bring something new to the table. If it's Star Wars, it's established, it's working for a certain reason, we've got these legendary characters, you could bring some new things to the table, but make sure those new things add to the world and not change it, manipulate it, make it worse, make it weird, things like that. Like if I'm going to write like a Superman comic, Superman is well established. I'm not going to think of something new and exciting and amazing no one's ever thought about for Superman before. Just walk in a straight line to a certain extent with the thing. And if not, you're going to get The Last Jedi and the franchise in shambles. It's pretty much ruined. Johnson added, so to me the notion of what's the entire galaxy or world that you are creating or something, I can't imagine getting excited about creating that. To me what I'm excited about is creating a 2-hour-long experience for an audience to have in the theater, which is exactly the wrong thing. And that means how they engage moment to moment with the story and the characters that are on the screen, and that doesn't change in either one of those. And he did the worst possible job with Finn, Rose Tico, Poe, Rey, Luke, Holdo, and Leia. And I mean one of the worst possible jobs you could think of. So, everything's important, really. You can't say, well, this isn't important to me. This is. Everything's important in adding to this legendary trilogy. The answer is not really shocking given the product we saw in The Last Jedi. The movie threw away and completely ignored characterizations and story moments from The Force Awakens. The opening scene of the film is probably the biggest example. General Hux, played by Domhnall Gleeson, is turned into a complete and utter buffoon as he gets prank called by Poe Dameron. I know I'm probably covering some words here, but I'm reading them. However, radically changing characters that are part of a much larger narrative doesn't work on audiences. It doesn't work with Hux, and it most certainly doesn't work on Luke Skywalker, who is probably an even bigger example when it comes to altering characters to fit a singular narrative, despite 3 previous films defining who he is as a character in the minds of audiences. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, once you've got something really set in someone's mind, don't try to do like a 180 or do some new thing just because you're a new director doing a new thing. It doesn't quite work like that. You know, if I was going to write like a movie about Robin Hood or something, that's an established thing. Steal from the rich, give to the poor. You know, don't make him some kind of weirdo jester singing songs for the king and now he doesn't want to steal. You know, just at least keep some certain consistencies. And this is, by the way, from Battling to Comics, and they went on to some length explaining why he's wrong, but I cut it up a little bit. That's not how movie series work. That's not how a trilogy works, and it's ultimately why the Disney Star Wars films are an utter disaster story and character-wise. What do you make of Johnson's latest comments? Well, I think we know that. So yeah, there you have it. I mean, look, it's like, the thing is, there have been people defending this Star Wars Disney trilogy for a long time, and now information comes out that's flat out telling them they're wrong about the defenses they're making for these things. So, I'm not up in it these days, I'll admit, but I'd love to see some defenses for Rian Johnson now that we know all these things he blatantly admits, Kathleen Kennedy blatantly admits. You know, it just keeps getting worse and worse and weirder and worse. We had this story that Palpatine's a clone. I couldn't even get into it. You know, I'm kind of busy with other content, but I mean, it's just like an eye roll. What am I gonna say about that? I could talk about it, sure, but it's just like, first of all, it's in the novel, and I don't really care what's in the novel, and second of all, I guess it doesn't make much of a difference. Anyway, let's do a shout out. Shout out to Odega Outlaw. Shout out to Angry Bird TV. And shout out to STD Sucks, because I think STD sucks also. If you don't know, Star Trek Discovery sucks, and it's very, very bad. Is it worse than Disney Star Wars? I'd say no, because you could just ignore it. I don't think it ruins characters in the same way, and they're not using the original actors, but it is bad. Anyway, if you're not subscribed here, click that subscribe button. I'm doing, well, some Star Wars, Amber Heard, pop culture, entertainment, Japan vlogs. Really going to get to one really soon, and I'll see you next time.